I used to think loyalty was the one thing money couldn't buy in my family. I was wrong. It turns out loyalty was the only thing my family ever wanted to buy with my money. My name is Harlow Bennett. I'm 25 years old, and until last Christmas, I was the person who kept my family's lights on. Literally, this is the story of the night I found out that being needed and being loved are two very different things. I grew up outside Columbus, Ohio, in a small rental house with faded blue siding and a porch swing that never stopped creaking. We weren't wealthy, but we were stable. My dad, Gary, worked in HVAC installation. My mom, Denise, did the books for a local auto shop a few days a week. It was a modest life, but a steady one. Then when I was 21, my dad fell off a ladder on a job site and shattered 2 vertebrae in his lower back. He couldn't work anymore. He filed for disability, and we were told it would take a few months to process. Those few months turned into 3 years. At first, I helped because that's what you do. I was fresh out of community college working full-time at a marketing firm downtown, and I didn't mind chipping in $50 here, covering a grocery run there. But slowly, the favors turned into obligations. $50 became $500, groceries became the entire pantry. And before I fully understood what was happening, I was the one paying the mortgage, the electric bill, the water bill, and the car insurance for the whole household. My older brother Colton was 28 and still lived in the basement. He worked, on and off, which mostly meant he collected unemployment between short stints at warehouses he always managed to get fired from. He never once offered to help with a bill. If anything, he treated my financial responsibility like a personal joke. "Look at Harlow playing house mom," he'd say, cracking open another beer paid for with money he definitely hadn't earned. My younger sister Ivy was 16 and still in high school. I covered her cheerleading fees, her yearbook, her class ring. I didn't resent her for it. She was a kid. She didn't ask to be born into a house where the grown-ups had quietly handed their responsibilities to their 20-something daughter. I kept telling myself it was temporary. Once Dad's disability came through, once Mom picked up more hours, once Colton got his act together, things would go back to normal. But normal never came back. And somewhere in year 2, I stopped waiting for it. Still, nothing prepared me for what happened on Christmas Eve. We were all gathered around the dinner table. Mom, Dad, Colton, Ivy, and me. Mom had gone all out despite the tight budget. A honey-glazed ham, garlic mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, the works. She always said the one thing she refused to let go of, no matter how bad things got, was Christmas dinner. For the first half hour, it felt almost normal. Dad had a glass of bourbon in his hand. Colton was scrolling through his phone under the table, and Ivy was picking at her potatoes, half listening to the conversation. Then somewhere between the second helping of ham and Dad topping off his glass, the mood shifted. So Dad said, leaning back in his chair with the kind of casualness that told me this had been planned. "Your mother and I have been talking. Harlow, you're 25 now. Don't you think it's time you moved out and got your own place?" I actually laughed, thinking it was some kind of holiday joke. Nobody else laughed. "Wait," I said slowly, my fork frozen halfway to my mouth. "What?" Mom nodded like this was something rehearsed. "We just think it's time. Sweetheart, you're a grown woman. You should be building your own life, not living under your parents' roof." I stared at both of them. "I'm not just times living times here. I pay the mortgage. I pay the electric bill. I pay for half this dinner." "Actually," Colton snorted without looking up from his phone. "Bro, it's kind of pathetic, being 25 and still at home." Something in me went cold and hot at the same time. "I cover this entire house," I said, my voice sharper than I meant it to be. "I'm the one who's been keeping the lights on for 3 years, and I'm the freeloader." Mom see the exact sigh she used when she wanted me to feel like the unreasonable one. "Nobody said you don't help Harlow, but it's not healthy for a woman your age to still be tangled up in her parents' finances. It's time to be independent. Independent from what I asked. I'm the one being depended on." Nobody answered that. And that's when it actually hit me. They hadn't thought this through at all. They were so used to my paycheck disappearing into their bills that it hadn't crossed their minds what would happen the moment I wasn't there to catch it. I set my fork down very deliberately and took a breath. "Okay," I said quietly. "If that's really what you want, I'll move out." Mom's face relaxed like she'd expected a fight and was relieved it hadn't come. I know it feels scary, honey, but this will be good for you. We can even help you look for apartments. I almost laughed again. Instead, I just nodded. I'll start packing tomorrow. For one brief second, something like doubt flickered across my mother's face, but it was gone before anyone else noticed. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed replaying the whole conversation the casual way my father had delivered it, like he was doing me a favor. The practiced calm in my mother's voice. The way my brother had smirked like this was the best entertainment he'd had in months. They wanted me gone. Fine. I'd be gone. The next morning, I pulled 2 suitcases and a duffel bag out of my closet and started packing clothes. My laptop, important documents, the small jewelry box that had belonged to my grandmother. I didn't own much furniture. Most of what was in my room technically belonged to the house. I'd never bothered getting my own place because I genuinely believed my family needed me there. Turns out they only needed my direct deposit. Around noon, there was a soft knock on my door. It was Ivy, arms crossed, chewing on the inside of her cheek the way she always did when she was nervous. "You're actually leaving?" she asked. I zipped my suitcase shut. That's what they asked for. She shifted her weight. "Mom said you'd calm down by tonight." I let out a short, humorless laugh. She thinks I'm overreacting. Ivy didn't answer. She just stood in the doorway, looking like she wanted to say something and couldn't find the words for a second. Guilt tugged at my chest. She was still just a kid, still stuck in that house. But I couldn't let that keep me there. "I'm not mad at you," I said, softening. "I just can't stay somewhere I'm not wanted." She nodded, looked away quickly, and walked off without another word. The living room was empty when I finally came downstairs with my bags. For a moment, I thought I might actually make it out the door without another scene. Then my mother walked in from the kitchen, spotted the suitcases, and stopped. "You're leaving right now?" she asked, like this wasn't exactly what she'd asked for less than 24 hours earlier. "You told me to," I said. She frowned like she hadn't expected me to move that fast. "I thought you'd take a little more time to figure things out. I already have somewhere to stay." I said that wasn't entirely true yet, but I wasn't about to stand in that living room and let her talk me into staying another week. My father wandered in from the den, scratching his stomach, looking about as concerned as if I'd told him I was, rearranging the garage. "So, you're actually doing this?" "Huh?" I reached for the doorknob without answering. That's when my mother said the words that changed everything. "Harlow, wait. Before you go, we need to talk about the bills." I froze with my hand still on the knob. "What?" "Well," she said in that same maddeningly reasonable tone, "I know you're moving out, but obviously we still need help with the mortgage and the utilities. We were thinking you could keep sending money. For a while, at least until things stabilize." I turned around slowly. Sure, I must have misheard her. "You're kidding me. I'm serious." She said, "We can't cover everything on our own right now. You've been helping for so long. It wouldn't really be that different. You'd just be, you kicked me out," I said, cutting her off. "We times asked times you to move out." She corrected as if that distinction meant anything at all. My father sighed like I was the unreasonable one in the room. "Come on, kid. Don't be selfish. We took care of you for years. It's your turn to help us out now." My hands curled into fists at my sides. They'd had no problem telling me to leave the night before. No problem calling me the problem, the burden, the reason things weren't healthy. But the second they realized that also meant losing my paycheck, suddenly I was family again. Suddenly I owed them. I took one long breath and said the only word that mattered. "No." My mother blinked like she genuinely hadn't considered that answer as a possibility. "No. No," I repeated. "I'm not paying for anything else. You made it very clear. I'm not part of this household anymore, so I'm done." Silence. Then my father scoffed. "Wow. Real nice way to repay us." My mother looked almost offended. "We are your family, Harlow." I laughed. I couldn't help it. Funny. That didn't seem to matter much last night. I turned, opened the door, and walked out. Behind me, I heard my mother calling my name, my father muttering something under his breath, and my brother, who'd apparently been listening from the kitchen the whole time. Mumble. Guess she's actually doing it. I didn't stop. I didn't look back. I got in my car, gripped the steering wheel, and drove away without a single glance in the rearview mirror. I had no real plan. But for the first time in years, I knew exactly one thing. I was finally free. I spent the first 3 nights on my friend Priya's couch. She didn't ask many questions, just handed me a blanket and told me to make myself at home. While I was there, I finally did something I'd never let myself do before. I looked up rental listings and realized for the first time that I could actually afford my own apartment now that I wasn't quietly funding an entire household. Within 2 weeks, I'd signed a lease on a small 1-bedroom above a bakery on the east side of the city. It wasn't fancy. The floors creaked, the radiator clanked at night, and the closet was barely big enough for half my clothes. But it was mine. No one barging in without knocking. No passive-aggressive comments about how I spent my own paycheck. Just quiet. I settled into a routine that felt for the first time in years like actually living times instead of just surviving. Meanwhile, word trickled back to me about how things were going at home. Priya's mom still talked to mine occasionally, and Priya relayed the updates without me even asking. Apparently, my parents had genuinely believed I'd cave within a month and start sending money again. When the first payment cycle came and went with nothing from me, reality hit hard. The mortgage was suddenly hundreds of dollars short. The internet got shut off for 2 weeks. My mom picked up extra shifts. My dad tried selling old tools on Facebook Marketplace. My brother, who had never paid for a single thing in that house, suddenly had to start covering his own gas money. They were finally facing the weight of their own choices. And I'll be honest, I didn't feel guilty about that. Not one bit. As for me, I was thriving. I bought a secondhand couch I actually liked. I started cooking meals just for myself, buying groceries without calculating whether there'd be enough left for someone else's bill. My stress levels dropped so fast it almost scared me. I hadn't realized how tightly wound I'd been living in that house until I wasn't anymore. Then about a month later, my phone rang. I was curled up on my new couch, half watching a rerun when an unfamiliar number flashed across my screen. Out of habit more than curiosity, I picked up, "Hello, Oppose?" Then a voice I knew instantly. "Harlow, it's Mom." Not even bothering to hide the exhaustion in my voice. "What is it?" "Mom." She launched into her usual concerned parent routine, though this time there was an edge of desperation underneath it. "I just wanted to check on you. I know you're doing fine, but things have gotten really tight over here. We've been struggling with the bills." I braced myself. I already knew exactly where this was going. "We were hoping," she continued, "that maybe you could send a little something. It wouldn't have to be much." I closed my eyes. "I already told you. Mom, I'm done paying your bills. You told me I wasn't welcome there anymore. Remember?" A long silence stretched across the line. I knew exactly what she was doing. Waiting for guilt to creep in. Waiting for me to crack the way I always used to. But I didn't. I know. She finally said, "I know what we said, but things are different now. Your father and we didn't really mean it like that. We were upset. You were upset. But now we're in real trouble. And you're the only one who can help us." I let out a short, humorless laugh. "I'm not helping. You made it very clear I was a burden. You were fine taking my money when I lived there. But the second I left, suddenly I owe you. This isn't about that," she snapped. "This is about family. Family helps each other when times are tough." "Funny," I said. "How that concept only seems to apply when times you times need something from times me." "Harlow, please," she said, her voice cracking. "We've tried everything without your help. We're going to lose the house. You can't just walk away from that." My heart was pounding now, anger flooding in fast. "That's not my fault, Mom. I'm not responsible for your financial decisions. You and Dad made your choices. Now you live with them. I'm begging you," she said. "We need you." Those words landed strangely, not guilt. Exactly. More like clarity. I finally understood how deep the manipulation had run for all those years. Dressed up as love, as duty, as time's family. "I can't help you," I said quietly. "I won't. You wanted me gone. I'm gone." There was nothing but silence and the faint sound of her breathing before the line went dead. I sat there for a long time afterward, caught somewhere between relief and an ache I couldn't quite name. I didn't want to feel guilty, but some small, tired part of me still did. I told myself I'd made the right call. I still believe that. I didn't call back. I didn't visit. I didn't send a single dollar. A few days later, I got a text from my dad. 4 words times come home. We need to talk. I didn't answer that one either. They showed up at my apartment on a Saturday morning, unannounced. I saw them through the peephole. My mother and father standing on the little landing outside my door like they had every right to be there. My stomach dropped. I opened the door slowly, keeping my voice as level as I could manage. "What are you doing here?" "We need to talk," my father said, his voice low and hard. "I told you I don't want to talk," I said, standing firm in the doorway. "You made your position pretty clear. I'm not bailing you out because you didn't plan for the consequences." My mother spoke up from behind him. "Harlow, this is ridiculous. We're your family. You can't just abandon us." "Why not?" I shot back. "You didn't care about being my family when you were kicking me out. Why should I care about being yours now?" "Because you owe us," my father said, his voice rising, more desperate now than angry. "We gave you a roof over your head for years. You didn't have to worry about a thing, and now you want to just walk away from all of it. You're not getting anything from me," I said, holding my ground. They stared at me, and for a second, the air between us felt thick enough to choke on. Then my father did something I never expected. He stepped forward and pushed past me, right into my apartment. "Move, Harlow." I didn't even try to stop him fast enough. He walked through my living room like he owned it, glancing around with an expression somewhere between disdain and entitlement. "This place is tiny," he muttered. "Get out of my apartment," I said through clenched teeth. He turned to face me, arms crossed. "You need to start acting like a responsible adult and help your family. You owe us, Harlow." Something inside me finally snapped into place. Not rage. Exactly. But absolute clarity. "I don't owe you anything," I said. "I'm done." My mother stepped forward, her voice softening into that familiar pleading tone. "Please, Harlow, we're not asking for much. Just a little help and we'll be okay." I looked at her, shaking my head slowly. "You still don't get it, do you?" "I'm not your safety net. I'm not here to fix your mistakes for you. I'm done." They stood there stunned into silence like they genuinely hadn't expected me to push back this hard. I let the quiet stretch out for a moment before I said the words that made everything final. "I don't want to see either of you again." Then I opened the door wider, waited for them to step back through it, and closed it firmly behind them. It's been almost 5 months since that day. Life on my end has been quieter than I ever imagined it could be. I've settled into a real routine: work, my own space, my own bills, my own decisions. I'm doing better than I ever thought possible. The constant invisible pressure I lived under for years is finally gone, and I didn't realize how heavy it had been until it lifted. As for my parents, things haven't gone smoothly. I've heard through mutual friends that they've had to make serious sacrifices. My dad's been trying to pick up part-time work despite his back. My mom's working nearly every weekend. And my brother, for the first time in his life, has actually had to get a steady job because there's no one left to cover for him. I won't pretend I don't feel a small pang of something when I hear how hard things have gotten for them. But I remind myself every time that this isn't a consequence I created. It's one they chose the moment they decided my presence in that house only mattered as long as my paycheck came with it. I'm still sticking to my decision. No more money. No more covering for their choices. No more mistaking guilt for love. But I'll admit, some nights I still wonder if I drew the line in the right place or if there was a version of this where I could have helped a little without losing myself completely. So, I want to ask you, did I do the right thing? Should I have offered them even a little help after everything? Or did I finally set the boundary I should have set years ago? I'd really love to hear what you